Good afternoon and welcome everybody here to. Oh, we're definitely live and kicking now. I can hear myself very clearly. Welcome to the Bloss Backyard here at Bloss na HÉireann. It's a pleasure to be back on stage in this space, which is looking very nice and loose at the moment, but I can tell it's going to be very, very busy in the next few minutes. So you guys are prime position because you've got good seats. So feel free to come forward and make the most of it. So this afternoon, we're here to talk about green business, sustainability and action. Sustainability is a word that we're hearing all the time, but it comes in at so many different levels in terms of running a business, funding a business, getting the supports to build a business, and trying to figure out how it all works together. So I've got an amazing panel today to talk to you about this. So on my left here, we have Bill Sheppard from the Crean Brewery in Kenmare. And then we have Lucy Ryan, who is from Bank of Ireland. You joined just in 2023, but I love your title, which is the Head of Food and Beverage.
Hence why I'm here.
It's just the perfect spot for you to be here today, and you've got a lot of experience as well in the food and drink sectors in lots of different levels, which is brilliant to be able to bring it in here in this environment. Derek, we have you from Nevo.
Yep.
Nevo. So you have a passion for sustainability, and particular with the electrical vehicles. So the EV revolution has taken off in Ireland, but I think people have a lot of questions about it and whether it is actually going to work sustainably for their business. So I think that's something we can tackle. And then we also have, last, as she said herself, but definitely not least, Fiona Toomey from Bord Bia. And Fiona also has a fabulous title, which is a global retail specialist. So we've got very, very different people coming from very different areas here, people coming from lots of different levels in the food world. But I think, firstly, in terms of what you're doing it at the coalface, Bill. So tell me about running a brewery sustainably. And I suppose for the Crean Brewery in particular, you've got a particular sustainable message that you want to be able to broadcast.
Yeah, we actually, all our beers are natural, no additives, preservatives. We don't filter beer, we don't pasteurize beer. We want an absolutely natural beer, and we want to produce a pint that doesn't cost the earth. That's the tagline for our whole business. And it makes us look into every area of beer production, selling, to make sure we're going to try and do it in the right way. And
when you're producing your beer, and in terms of being able to broadcast this to the consumers, how important is the idea of sustainability to them when you're talking? Especially because we were all here last night and we got to try some of your lovely beers, and the Kolsch style one is a particular favourite of mine. So do you feel that it's very important to be able to broadcast this to consumers? Do they ask about it? And obviously this is a very different crowd, so when we're all, this is a bit of an echo chamber in some ways, that we're all involved in food in some ways. But when you're going out there and doing supermarket tastings, for example, how does that come across the consumer?
Well, where we get the most interest about our sustainability stance is it's an element of every tour that we do. Every person we talk to when we want to sell beer, there's an element of sustainability. Because, for instance, hotels want to reduce their carbon footprint, and they're going to look at producers that have a strong sustainability ethic and message to sell. On the tour, we're kind of really lucky. We have a unique selling point, not just in the beer, but in the history with the Crean Association. But there's always an element of sustainability within that tour, telling people what we're doing. That generates the most questions on the tour. Crean, the beer, great. Sustainability is the one that inspires people. They listen to what we do, and they may be inspired a little bit to do something themselves.
Yeah, and I think if you can get that message across to your consumers, that's really important. In terms of what you do, Lucy, the people who come to you at Bank of Ireland and who are looking, to develop their food and drinks businesses, how can you help them? How can you assist them in that sustainability journey?
Well, I suppose at a basic level, first of all, I'll say is this people are at so many different stages of their sustainability journey, for want of a better description. So
it was looking at Derek,
sorry,
the journey into
no
my
pun
head.
intended. So you have the likes of Bill, who is so far advanced in terms of having that sustainability ethos within the business. Others who haven't even really, I suppose, even thought about it or tackled it, particularly some of the smaller entities. So what we are currently trying to do, and have been for the last year or two, is help lead people to start thinking about sustainability plans, to start going to source and look for supports that are out there from the various government agencies, and there's lots of great work being done in that regard. To also, as I said, even as basic as crib sheets and how they might, simple facts as to how they might look to start becoming more sustainable, thinking about their sourcing, thinking about, their social. Some of them have been doing some great work for years without recognizing it as being sustainable. So they just started. Some operators we deal with panic a little bit, thinking, I'm not doing anything on the ESG front, but then they are, because they're so embedded in their community. They could
Can I just stop you for a second, Lucy? ESG.
Sorry, environmental, social, and governance, which really has been overwritten in a way by sustainability.
And that's like it's an acronym.
Yes,
I think actually maybe that's some producers are like, oh, what does this mean?
Exactly. So
some of KPIs.
Yes, some of it is a bit of a demystification.
Yes.
At its simplest level, to actually help businesses understand what measures they need to start to take to decarbonize their businesses over time. And some of that can be as simple as social initiatives. Many are doing lots of great work in reducing their energy usage and monitoring their energy usage. Many are then, I suppose, more focused on the governance element of it, how they're going to track and control and work through a plan to decarbonize over time. So the bank at this point is doing a lot to, I suppose, lead the customers to have those discussions. And also we have a pilot scheme working within the dairy space, within the agri space, whereby we're actually giving discounted loans to members of various co-ops for sustainability initiatives they're taking. And that over time is going to become more prevalent in terms of our business model.
That's really interesting because if you're wanting to do something in the sustainability area as a farmer and you need, obviously, I presume there's a lot of criteria around it, but just to be able to have a place that you can go to find this out and to perhaps get your discounted loan, that could be a game changer for a lot of people.
And there are also various loan schemes that have been happening on and off for various green initiatives where there are preferential rates if you're doing something that's deemed to be part of a green transition, deemed to be something that's actually going to help decarbonize your business over time. So, and those various schemes are evolving and progressing as, I suppose, we're all moving into that more sustainable space and trying to, I suppose, advance ourselves from that point of view.
Well, I think, Derek, it's that is kind of your cue in lots of ways. So talking about decarbonising your business, so talk to me about how you can help people to achieve this.
Yeah, so at Nevo we have an advisory service where we help people that have a large or a small fleet that are thinking about going electric. My job isn't to force everybody to go electric because it has to be business viable. It has to make financial sense, but you can see that lens is moving towards suppliers and are asking, okay, what is your carbon footprint? What are you doing about sustainability before we buy your produce? And what we're hearing people coming to us going, Derek, this is my diesel van, how can I make this an electric van? And I say, well, what's your data first? What is the mileage like? What's your capacity that you need to carry? What's the volume you need to carry? So there's a lot of criteria, and then crunching the data to say, do you know what? Yes, there is a van that will do those jobs for you, or no, there's a van coming in 6 months' time, or next year, or have you thought about this instead? Maybe it's an electric car that's been commercialized. So there's lots of things out there, but you're not the first person to do it. There are a lot of companies out there that have done it already, and you can learn from other people. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. But there's a whole ecosystem around how do I charge it, how do I drive it. So there's a lot there.
And how far can I drive it?
Everybody is obsessed.
Yeah.
Oh, you drive electric, how far does it go? I was like, how far does your diesel car go? And they're like, I don't know. So the people
nearest garage.
Like you can exactly. But people go, oh, did you drive down? That's the van at the start there as you're walking in there. And we drove down yesterday, but we drove down a couple of weeks ago when we did the video. And people say, oh, how often did you have to stop and charge? And I said, I never had to stop and charge. Because I had to stop to go and get some lunch, I had to stop and go to the toilet. And when I was doing those things, I was charging.
Yeah.
And it's just the mindset of you should be charging when you're doing something else, not having to stop and charge.
Yeah, well, it's like the whole idea of having lots of charging stations on the road is great. But if they're with service, in conjunction with services,
Right.
it makes far more sense
Yeah.
for people because
Yeah.
then you can be
Do
doing
other
your lunch, you can go into the shop, find the nice beer inside in the shop.
Not drinking the beer.
No, I wasn't
Put it in the boot.
drinking it. But you have that option to do other things as part of your journey,
Right.
as part of your stop, your charging stop. It's sometimes to get onto the chargers. That's the issue. In terms of Bord Bia, what kind of supports then? Like, I'm not sure if. It would be lovely if we could link up all these ideas about, having ways of getting your sustainable fleet through funding or figuring it all that way. But I'm not sure that's quite how it works, Fiona.
I'm trying to think of a link.
Yeah, that would be nice.
I suppose when everyone talks about sustainability, and if you think of Bord Bia, you're going to think of Origin Green, or at least I hope you are. We haven't been doing a very good job at talking about it for the last 12 years. But I suppose, Caroline, that's the starting point, really. And Lucy mentioned it as well in terms of supports that they're offering. A lot of the time for a producer, Origin Green it's another job to do, which it is, and it's not easy to do it. But the flip side of that is, I suppose, it shouldn't be easy because we are trying to differentiate ourselves from competitors overseas primarily. And as the old saying goes, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. But maybe the more interesting piece to talk about, and maybe something we should be better at, is talking about what Origin Green gives you access to in terms of the services that you then get. So it opens up other doors. For example, my job in Bord Bia is not to do with Origin Green, and I'm not an auditor, as I often have to tell farmers if they're looking to give some feedback. But I speak to customers all the time, and retailers specifically, who have, a lot of them are here, so I better keep my voice down a little bit. But
when you say you speak to customers, Fiona,
Yeah.
we're talking about the retailers,
Correct.
so like the people who sell to the end consumer rather than
exactly.
rather than the person on the street who wants to buy the
Exactly,
product.
yeah. I suppose the producers here, they're customers, they're business-to-business customers. And there is huge pressure being felt, particularly by bigger retailers, to set ambitious targets as well, which they have to do. We're moving probably towards a space now where a lot of that is going to be required by law as well, which is changing the space. And Bill, you referenced it in terms of customers are looking for producers with sustainability credentials. So there's a couple of things then. Number one is, if you do have Origin Green membership, I would say to people, the second you apply, you're assigned a mentor. You then have 6 months to get verified, and that mentor will work with you to get verified. Once you apply, you can access those services during the 6 months. So recently, what we've been doing is convening industry really to share frustrations, challenges, and see if we can find solutions together when it comes to sustainability, because each of us have talked about something different. Where do you start? What do you prioritise? Where do you start? Is it something your customer is demanding that they want to report on? Is it something you yourself feel that your business is well positioned on? And to find a link back in the plan, is it that your delivery fleet is moving to electric? That goes into the plan. That counts for something in terms of your emissions and then your customers' emissions. So there's a lot of support and mentorship offered in that space. But I think at the moment, everybody's talking about legislation, and it's incredibly complex. So trying to translate that has been something we've been focused on a lot. Like last Friday alone in the office, we had sustainability teams from meat and dairy companies downstairs talking about the deforestation regulation that the EU is moving to implement. And upstairs, we actually had commercial teams talking about how do you communicate sustainability when it's not your first language. So we probably have moved from a space where people were focused on having sustainability teams and resources, and for a lot of small businesses,
No,
that's not
that's
possible.
It's Bill.
It's a one-man show, not
Yeah,
it's just yourself
Yeah.
in the brewery, Bill. But it is very difficult, Fiona, like for a lot of the producers that are here today and over the weekend, it is just a one-person show or a two-person show, and often one of the people has another job, because to do a lot of the food businesses are passion projects, but they also have to be, and this is another sustainable area. It has to be sustainable so that you can make a living out of it. There's no point in having a beer that's really well produced, that ticks all the sustainability boxes, unless you can make enough money to keep you and your family going. And that is another level of sustainable. And also that leads very much into the local side of things. And I suppose you're not quite local, but you
No.
have become so.
Large blowing, really. And yeah, we do have to wear a lot of hats.
Yes.
That goes with the territory, with any small business. And being in the beer industry, there's a lot of legislation and revenue looking over your shoulder, and everything has to be right down, so there's no hiding place. So everything's got to be right. So yeah, there is a pressure on small businesses, and to get into, to do extra work, to say, look, these are our sustainable credentials, is a lot more extra work. We're being helped at the moment with the University of New Hampshire. So they actually approached us and said, we're seeing what you're doing in sustainability, and we think you should be applying for B Corp certification. So over the course of the last 6-7 months, we've been in negotiations with them. We're now working with the students in the University of New Hampshire. We've applied for our B Corp assessment. We were a whisker under getting certification. So now with the work we're going to do with these professionals, the students, they can bring fresh set of eyes and fill in the gaps in the knowledge that we have, so that we are a stronger, better business. And B Corp's all about how you treat your staff, how you treat your customers, how you treat your consumers, how you look after or work with your community, and what you do for climate. So all those are audited, and you have to, it's really difficult to get this accreditation, but that's where we're heading now.
Well, I think it's how you treat your staff could be a very interesting questionnaire if you're if it's you sending yourself the questionnaire as well, which does happen in small businesses. It's like
I mean, we have subcontractors, we do have staff working for us, but the simplest of things, like these guys talking to students the other evening, and they said, you need to look at this area, and Aileen and I chatted and said, you know what, if we offered gym or pool membership to the local leisure centre, we're investing in our staff's health. And Aileen has these lovely Kerry phrases, and the one she came out with was, health is wealth. And we look after our staff, it pays us back.
Yeah, no, and that's across the board, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
It works at every level in terms of being able to keep a business. It's like even if you can get everybody to get the flu shot, and you can just do that within the business. Again, it depends on the size of the business, but I know it's something that we've looked into in the past, because you're thinking, okay, if we can keep our staff healthy, that's going to make everything better going forwards. To go back to you for a second, Fiona, in terms of Origin Green, is like the B Corp, I know that they're very separate things, but do you see them as being complementary, or like are businesses looking at both parts of them?
I think businesses are looking at both, because B Corp is a consumer-facing sustainability accreditation, whereas Origin Green is not consumer-facing, it's business to business. So a lot of companies are investing in both. I suppose Origin Green, from our perspective, remains the national sustainability programme in Ireland, so it's sector-specific for Irish food and drink. So therefore, as a result, the services that you're offered as part of Origin Green are food-specific and they're agricultural-specific. But to go back to the point that you were making, Bill, and listening to Eamon and Ed in here from Knockanore earlier as well, talking about the different hats you wear and trying to define roles in a business, you're nearly at an advantage when it comes to sustainability if you're already doing that. Because if you have for years been solely focused on commercial, or you've been solely focused on a specific part in a bigger company, you almost feel it's somebody else's job to have the sustainability conversation, and a buyer doesn't think that. A buyer thinks you should talk to me about it if I ask you.
Yeah,
so
you need to know everything about your business.
Exactly.
And yeah, you're right. In a lot of small businesses, we can't survive without knowing everything about our business and without doing everything in our business. Lucy, in terms of Bank of Ireland, then, do you offer your customers some of the supports to help them with Origin Green or B Corp, or would there be those kind of elements?
Well, we now do have a sustainability team that has just come into being in the last year or so. So I suppose all those various initiatives, like the pilot one I was talking about, that we will be rolling out to a wider number of customers, an online system whereby customers will be able to assess and plan their sustainability, I suppose their whole sustainability plan into the future. So yes, but it's a long road. It's a little bit of a marathon, I guess. We're kind of slowly but surely trying to put all the pieces into place, and I think it's kind of it's something that we need to do together with our customers as well. Take the feedback as to what they need and what's most required. So no, we don't specifically look to enable them on things like B Corp or Origin Green certification, but we are very keen that they are taking various sustainability initiatives and trying to help them find their way, I suppose. I think everyone's sustainability plan is different, whether you're brewing, whether you're processing seafood, whether you're trawling. Everyone has a different kind of way. They have to find their own path, if you like. So yes, we are trying to do it. We are trying to help and support as best we can, and I suppose it's trying to find that way to do it across a diverse group of different producers and operators,
Well, I do know that one of the major issues for small producers is having the time to stand outside the business and to work on the business as opposed to being in at the coal face or at the brewery, the brew house, and trying to get all that done. And so if people are able to do, track some of their sustainability objectives and plans, and then that can feed into doing B Corp or doing the Origin Green certification for that.
And it also helps every time we look at a funding application, or we have customers coming to us. The whole area of sustainability is key, and it certainly is something we need to be very cognizant of. Because ultimately, over time, suppliers won't be able to deal with retailers or sell into retailers if they don't have a certain sustainability I suppose plan, and that they're not decarbonising, and similarly funding will become trickier. So I suppose the onus is on all of us to decarbonise in whatever way we can, whether it be at home or through our businesses and across the community.
And it doesn't have to be the huge big actions. And I suppose sustainability can be so off-putting in so many ways, because it covers a multitude. But for you, Derek, you just can see, would you see your job as being a consultant then for people, and being able to go look at the business from outside in that way?
And like you're talking about there, people who run businesses, and I'm part of a family business back home, I understand you're doing a lot of things, and there's nobody sitting out there going, God, I wish I had something to do today. So they're always doing other things, but it's seeking out the expertise. I'm thinking of doing waste reduction, I'm thinking of changing my package, and I'm thinking of electrifying my fleet. So it's understanding who's in the marketplace, find out how well they are connected, have they got previous case studies that you can look at, what else do they offer. And as much as I'm about helping organisations and Nevo electrify your fleet, first step for us is about collecting the data. Very much like you were saying, Lucy, if you don't understand the data, if you can't measure something, you can't master it. And so it's, I want to understand the data of my fleet. Now, we might track that fleet, that data, that piece of vehicle for a year, 2 years, and it may never go electric. But by understanding that the vehicle can be improving on idling, can improve on the fuel efficiency, the driving dynamics of the drivers, harsh cornering, harsh braking, all this stuff. Are they wearing their seatbelts? Is it safe? There's so many things within that can help you on that sustainability journey. You may never go electric. I'll have a little cry, but if that's the case.
Don't make Derek sad.
Yeah, no,
don't make Derek sad.
You don't want that.
And can I just add to that point as well? Because many of the operators I've met, particularly recently, have said they've made more gains in tracking and managing and controlling their energy usage than they have in specifically investing in a green initiative like a heat recovery system, for example. Not to say that they are great, but it's the tracking, controlling, a bit like in your house, turning off your lights, turning off all those things yielded more.
Of how much you're
exactly,
using. And
exactly, yeah.
In doing things like Origin Green, in looking at your fleet, in looking at B Corp, those are all bringing you and doing your Bank of Ireland sustainability questionnaires and things.
Yeah.
You are bringing the more information, it gives you more power.
Yeah.
It's just again to find the time, Bill, as the person who's producing the beer, and because we only have a few minutes left, we do have some time for questions afterwards, but so what would set Irish producers in a sustainable way, do you think? What would set Irish producers apart? Keep the hard ones for you now.
Yeah. It's what would set us Irish beer producers apart?
Because you meet a lot of people, international visitors. You have a lot of people coming and seeing what you're doing. And what do you think?
In the craft beer industry, it's driven by the international tourist. It really is. So we have a huge job to do in convincing the domestic tourists that craft beer is what they want to be drinking. In their local villages, in their local towns. For me, every town in Ireland should have their own brewery, one if not two. That's where we should be going. And we shouldn't be reliant on importing beer from overseas or from bringing in, taking in labels of beers, and we're looking to produce the best quality beer that we can for a home market. It's a difficult sell because we have a couple of competitors that have very good branding, very loyal group of people who drink their beers, and it's maybe just chipping away at those and saying, there's a better option. There's a local option.
And there's a big market. You don't need to have all that market to yourselves.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the big boys here. Yeah. But not to go too far down the beer wormhole, because we could for the whole evening. But do customers, international customers, do they comment on the water? Do they comment on your space, your environment that you're in?
Yeah, I mean, we do as much as we can for saving our resources. Our spent grain is a huge resource that, under normal circumstances, might often be thrown away. It's a fantastic resource. What we do, we converted it into spent grain. We then got our own animals. We feed it to our own animals now. They're in amazing condition. We actually built a polytunnel. From America, we bought a biodigester. In the polytunnel is the biodigester. We have the temperatures. All our waste from the brewery, from the house, goes into the biodigester.
Wow.
That produces all our natural liquid fertilizer for the grass, for the sheep, for tidy towns, for local producers. It also produces the methane gas that we use in the kitchen, we pump into the kitchen and cook on.
I love your circularity.
And it's all from a waste product.
Yeah, and being able to reuse and make the most of that waste product. It's taking the word waste out of the equation.
Yeah.
For you, Lucy, because you would see a lot of different businesses come across your desk, what would be the one thing that makes Irish food producers really stand out?
I think the quality that has come into Irish food production in recent years and the appreciation of that quality, and I think increasingly, to Bill's points, the it's starting, but I think an increasing awareness and usage of waste and repurposing of various waste elements that can actually create new foods and new products. So I don't know if that's fully appreciated by us all yet, but I'm keeping on the sustainability theme. So I just think that is something that, so we have amazing quality, but I don't know if we fully have that kind of circular piece going yet. And I think, as I said, hearing Bill's story is great. So it's kind of replicating that further across the industry, I think, is what we need to aim for.
Magnifying it and replicating it,
exactly,
I think, is very
exactly,
important.
very important.
Derek, for you, I've been watching everything going past.
Oh, aye.
And I'm not sure there's many EVs going past at the moment.
The prams.
Do you see, like, in you know, where would you see the sustainability of the Irish food fleet?
Yeah, we need to remember that we have an image internationally, nationally and internationally, of clean, pure, green, you know what I mean, averaging green, obviously great branding, but ask anybody outside of Ireland, what is Ireland like in its fields, its green, all the rest of it, but we, as producers, we need to make sure that we maintain that we improve on that, our waterways, our air, our noise, all of that kind of stuff. And an electric vehicle, it's not going to be the solution for everybody. Are there other technologies like hydrogen and solid-state batteries? Yes. But today, if you want a zero tailpipe emission delivery of a vehicle, and Bill does it locally with his beers, there are electric vehicles, all shapes and sizes. And the beauty of electric vehicles is that shape and size diversity. It's not just a traditional van that can go electric. You're now seeing other manufacturers and other form factors coming out because you don't have an engine, you don't have a transmission tunnel. So an Irish producer that takes that opportunity to do you know what, I'm going to differentiate myself, my USP, the branding of the vehicle, we were chatting about that earlier on, the uniqueness of it. People go, what is that? And it's Tom Crane's Brewery, they're delivering their kegs down the road. And it's, I didn't hear anything. Oh, it's an electric vehicle. All of these, so it'll help you in marketing, running costs, your local environment, etc. I'm a bit passionate about it.
I would never have guessed.
No.
Never have guessed.
I'll take it. But joking aside, we do need to take it seriously, number one, because, as I said, your customers, your consumers, people are going to start asking that question, how sustainable, how are you delivering it? I get a bit of abuse when I go overseas to review vehicles in different countries. They're like, oh, your carbon footprint isn't very good. So people are on the ditches ready to, snipe at you. So you need, and I'm not a producer. So you have to be able to answer those questions, joking aside. But the opportunity, we're not a very big island. There's a lot of opportunity out there. You can always put up challenges. Oh, that'll never work for me. And I'll say, well, have you got the data? Can you show me that it won't work for you? I can show you that it will work for you, potentially. But for me, it boils back to getting the data as well.
Yeah, and letting people know what is out there. For you, Fiona, in terms of, you get a lot of different businesses are all different shapes and sizes coming across your desk in terms of Origin Green and in terms of what Irish businesses can do. So what really stands out for you in a sustainability area? And we're talking obviously about Irish food businesses here.
I actually think it's the people and the openness to learn and stick your hand up and say, I don't feel comfortable having this conversation. I need to learn more about it. And the second that you do that, you'll find support. So you'll find someone else who says, me too. And this is what I did. So from a sustainability perspective, we've made huge progress. Like, there's 350 Origin Green verified companies. There's over 77,000 farms in Ireland in the quality assurance scheme, which gives us great leverage when we're overseas to be able to talk at that scale, and we punch above our weight hugely. Like, as I think you said, Derek, we're a small island, and the business that we're doing in food is huge. But then that's also reflected back in how important it is to us here. Like, agriculture and food is a huge part of our economy in Ireland. It's hugely important. So for that reason, from an employment perspective, an investment perspective, it has to be front and centre. So as you listen to Lucy and you see banks now looking at sustainability credentials when it comes to loans, it just does show I suppose the one piece of advice that I would give is that don't wait until you have a solution to have the conversation with a customer, because they don't have the solution themselves. So if you can be proactive, have the conversation about your business, about what you're doing, whatever it is, then you're already ahead of a competitor.
That is a very good point, because it's like when you start asking the questions, there's often somebody who might have the answer on your doorstep. Speaking of asking questions, now I think we have a few more minutes. If we have, we're good. Is that mic live? Yes.
It doesn't work. Hello. Hi.
You're definitely with us now.
I'm Will from Ireland and Herbs, the elder lemon of the business. And should we say that we are proud Origin Green members. But here is where it all goes wrong. We, for many years, have been involved with the Bord Bia assurance scheme, which is SHAS, and now I'm going to go with letters. Then one of our customers, and I say this without any criticism of our customers, because we deal with all the multiples. One of ours recently, some time ago, said, "You've got to be in SEDEX." Right? SEDEX in real terms its real thing is about slave labor and stuff like that. But then SEDEX decides to add sustainability to go along with everybody else. Then we have Tesco Nurture. Now that's that is a very good scheme.
Yep.
An excellent scheme, right? But then two retailers have come up with this wonderful idea that we should join Leaf, which is associated with the NFU in the UK, or at least they're out of their offices. And it's linking environment and farming. Now, that's a great scheme. Now, when we spoke to Bord Bia about it, they said, "But we have Origin Green." And you do. Now, I could keep on adding where major retailers have given us sustainability documents. And one asks us to apply to the All Ireland Pollinator Plan. Great scheme. I spoke to their director the other day for half an hour. A great scheme. A certain retailer, in their wisdom, tells us that we must cut all our grass areas tightly for tidiness, while at the same time they want us to be environmentally friendly. And when there is the only example I've ever found where a requirement of one scheme becomes a non-conformance in another. Yeah. And I can see a situation where, with all of these schemes, and as they develop them all, that there will be total contradictions, and where, as I say, an absolute requirement in one scheme, as indeed in the pollinator plan, they don't like us to cut the grass until a certain time, and they like us to keep our wildflowers. Whereas I won't name the organisation, because I think it was a mistake on their part to put it in as a requirement. But I'm sorry, I'm a bit long-winded in my question.
No, I think it's a very valid comment, because there's a lot of different requirements, and I think you have to figure out what makes the sense for your business.
Yes.
But when you're dealing with lots of different retailers as well, obviously they have their requirements.
I just
people here who are in Origin Green would know that I've on a number of occasions raised this particular question at seminars.
Yeah.
And somebody else raised it in a different one at the seminar we had down in the University of Limerick back in June. And a lady, a legal expert on European law, said that there were 250 separate acronyms or schemes existing within the European Union and the United Kingdom.
Oh, I can bet you there's a lot more acronyms than that existing in the European Union.
Well, should we say that somewhere along the line, if Europe is about harmonisation, that somebody should do something.
And can I just come in on that, because it is a very valid and fair point, and I think what it's highlighting is the number of different technical standards and requirements that are now being put in front of producers. That even gets more complex when you're dealing with potentially a customer that is part of a global network, because they have a headquarters that is based in a country outside of Ireland, and their powers that be have decided that globally we might implement LEAF or whatever the scheme might be. It puts producers in a very difficult position. But where we are with, as you said, the SHAS, which is our Sustainable Horticulture Scheme, is that we have technical advisory committees. Customers don't sit on those. Producers sit on those, and that's where we need to consult with each other and have those discussions.
By the way, to anybody who has got the leaf thing imposed on them, I'll use that word very politely. I have addressed the thing. I've gone and visited associated leaf what they call demonstration farms. I've spoken to people in their headquarters, and if the retailers involved do decide to go ahead with this thing, it is achievable. It is achievable, and I think it's one of the things that the Leaf chief executive, assistant to chief executive, told me that that we should get together. The Leaf applicants should get together in some way and to reduce the cost of auditing. Or indeed, I think it would be a better idea if someone in Ireland decided to become a Leaf auditor. But anyway, I think these things will come. And as you say, it comes from an international headquarters.
Yeah, absolutely.
In London.
And it's just one example. It's happening across all industries. That's one sector. But it's to continually keep us informed of that, because we can put an industry position across back to customers. Yeah, on your behalf.
I hasten to add that the Germans will probably, the German-owned supermarkets will probably have their corporate thing to add to us in due course.
Britain separately.
Well, thank you very much for that, because I do think it's, and we've all been in that position where there's a lot of different requests coming in at us. We've just brief time for one more question. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you very much. I, as a food producer, we're cheesemakers in Tipperary, Cashel Blue, and we've been involved in Origin Green since day one, and we're gold members. And I think it's really interesting in the sense, it helps you put together data, okay? And, to have something to stand over, to have a sense of pride in something, you have to measure it, it has to be real. And I think going back to the last talk, which was about branding, you've got to own sustainability. But I think one of our biggest challenges is actually the hierarchy of messaging, because actually consumers aren't scientists. And I went into a talk and I was really proud of myself. Talking to a supermarket in the UK, and I'd learnt off all these wonderful stats of things we'd delivered over the last 10 years. And they turned around to me and they said, well, actually in our hierarchy of messaging, animal welfare comes before environmentalism. And I was absolutely stumped. Of course, I care about animal welfare, but I wasn't joining the dots. So it's just a comment, that hierarchy of messaging and managing all the noise, be that from all the different schemes. And I'd love to do B Corp. But I just, don't really feel you can do everything at the same time. But I think owning little steps and not letting it overwhelm you.
And I think in an environment like this, we can all share our experiences and learn from each other as well, and which I think is really valuable. So, like if you were here, and we don't have any more time today to talk, but for this particular panel, but our panelists are all going to be floating around. You won't. It's not like you won't bump into each other around the place. This is a place where you can share your experiences. You can learn from other people's experiences, and you can also, if people gather together, if you've got all your leaves together, you got a beautiful tree, and that makes there's a lot of strength in numbers. So if everybody is making these comments, then there's definitely an issue that hopefully can be tackled from somebody within the industry. But in terms of for now, I would just like to say very big thank you to my panellists, to Bill, Lucy, Derek, and Fiona at the end, still again. But thank you very much for being here with me today. And this sustainability conversation does not end, because we're constantly having this conversation. So please, definitely carry this on. We are going to be back on stage at 4 p.m. as well. That is Mastering Media Relations. It's the PR toolkit with the lovely Vivian down there. That we see Daniel Georgia from Bone Chocolatiers, and Anna and Orla from Valencia Vermouth. We'll be talking about building an effective PR strategy. I'm on stage again for that, so we're going to all take a break. But can you all join in saying thanks very much to my panellists?
Thanks, Caroline.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, yeah.